Welcome, everyone. Today we're gonna go through the definition of system thinking, and we're gonna look at some bad example, let's say, and where it can lead to. So let's start with system thinking, this concept that for those of you that have been going into circular economy might have heard about and maybe never fully understood what it means. So what is system thinking? System thinking is a holistic approach that recognize that elements needs to be studied within the influence that they have with others. In other terms, elements are not living by themselves. If we want to have a representation, we can think about a red dot, and that's a part of a system. If we focus on this specific red dot and we try to understand how it works, we will realize that this dot actually has to live within a system. And this dot, the behavior of this dot is affected and affects other dots within our system. And by understanding the relation that this dot has with respect to the others and how each of them influence everyone, let's say, that's system thinking. What are the drawbacks of system thinking? As you might guess, system thinking adds complexity to the overall analysis because it acknowledges the fact that systems are actually dynamics and the properties that emerge they change according to the behavior of other elements within the system. Circular economy and system thinking. Why these two concepts are always related. This is very important, especially when it comes to businesses. Indeed, when we want to try to implement a circular economy business model or circular economic practices within our business, we need to think in a systemic way. Why? Because we need to understand the complex web of interactions that there are among the elements within our system. What are those elements? Let's make a few examples. One type of element is the business itself, so the business model that we have, the production processes that we're using, and also the consumer behavior that are buying from us. But other elements we need to consider are also the resources that we're using, how these are extracted, how are these processed, what is the life cycle of these resources. Another thing that we need to consider is the consumer we are selling to. How do they behave once they have our product? How do they act once they throw our product away? What can we do to interact with them? Also, we might want to consider the infrastructure and innovation that are available within our business, either in our business or close to our business, or what kind of elements we have to enable these circular economy practices. Why this is very important? Because as you can see, the change of even one of these elements will inevitably affect all the others. If my customer will change the way in which they handle the product at the end of life, my business model might fail. If I don't have the infrastructure to innovate, my company cannot take advantage of circular economy. If the resources are changing, if the price of the resources is changing, these affect my business as well. So to wrap up, without a system thinking approach, circular economy cannot even be considered because by treating each element as a single isolated topic, it will of course lead to some unsustainable outcome. If you focus only on circular business models without understanding how these impact the overall value chain of your company, that's going to be wrong. If you focus only on the product without considering the reverse logistic, collecting the product at the end of life, your circular business model will fail, and so on. Let's make some example. For instance, if we focus on recycling rate in our company to say, yeah, we are implementing circular economy, but then we do not consider the energy consumption or the waste that are generated by the recycling process itself. For instance, this is an example with critical raw material that often they need to be extracted with some toxic process, and that might be more harmful than beneficial. So, you need to understand, you need to consider all these elements to make the best choice. Another example is if you focus on the assembly rate of your product without considering that this product sooner or later will need to be disassembled. So maybe you want to have a product easier and faster to be assembled. So what do? You use glue over your product, and this will lead to the impossibility or the not economically feasibility to get back the product and disassemble and recover some part that might be valuable. It's the same with the business model. You might want to implement a circular business model. You think about typical product as a service. So you sell the product for a given period, and then when the product comes back, you want to refurbish. But the problem is that you do not consider the refurbishing time when you design the product, and you just switch the business model without modifying the product design or even considering the customer experience. And this, of course, leads to some downfall of the circular economy concept, while it's actually a problem with the way in which circular economy has been implemented since the beginning. Thank you for listening. In the next lessons, we're gonna go again through the system thinking, and we're gonna see at some scenario, let's say how system thinking can actually provide benefits on the company, and also circular economy is how they can be implemented with system thinking approaches.